Welcome, friends, to episode 275 of Color Magic, a Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of stuff that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and still for 275 episodes, got my main man, Brian Sonic. How's it going, dude?
It is going well. Getting ready to summon some eons and what the
Shoot. I'm just glad we got through the winter okay up here. I didn't get any crazy snow. We're starting to turn the corner. So I'm seeing some sunlight regularly. I'm like, all right, cool. We made it. Because I still ain't prepared for snow yet. I'm still not a snow guy. I'm too southern still, I think. But we do have a lot to talk about this episode. We got some Final Fantasy stuff, some Xbox stuff. We've got just tons of stuff, actually, surprisingly, because it seemed like a pretty light week, but we found some stories to share with y'all that you might want to hear. But before we do that, why don't you go over to patreon.com/colormagic and give us a little bit of support, and you get a shout out, just like Brian from New Jersey. He has his Brian and his whole, like, where he's from, New Jersey. I'm not going to put all that because I ain't trying to out Brian, but like, hey, thanks for being a patron just the same.
And cool name.
Fair enough. That is a good name. Spells it like yours, too.
Right? That's the way the cool people spell it.
But all right, let's get into our lead story, which if you are anywhere near, I was going to say Magic for the last 48 hours, but realistically, maybe even video games for the last 48 hours, you've probably seen the news that we've got our first kind of previewed cards for quite a few, actually, surprisingly, for Final Fantasy for Magic that's going to be coming soon. And the hype is about what we expected it was going to be, dude. I mean, we've been saying for hell, I guess almost 2 years since we found out it was going to be a thing. We've been saying when this drops, like, y'all don't even understand, like, this is going to be the most hyped thing. And people are like, well, I don't know if it's going to be as big as Lord of the Rings. Or I'm like, y'all, like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is going to be big. And then not only that, we saw that after the initial wave of stuff got previewed and we saw the images or whatever, previews went up on Amazon. And within, I think it was like 2 hours, stuff was just gone. You know, it's just like, and people are complaining, oh, they're already going to be selling it up above MSRP and blah, blah. Like, what do you think? What are they supposed to do when you sell everything in under a couple of hours? Like, this is literally what we thought it was going to be. Like, really, dude, like, did you expect this to be any different once we started seeing Final Fantasy cards?
I didn't think you'd be gone in a couple of hours, but I figured, yeah, this is going to move pretty fast.
Yeah, and you're writing on these video game sites, so like, how much coverage are they getting over there already?
But a lot of the video game sites had already started covering Magic, so this just kind of rolls into that. And I think that's even before Universe Beyond. Now that Universe Beyond is happening, yeah, there are so many other excuses to dip into cover. I think at this point, I'd say almost all the major ones I think are already covering Magic. I think IGN does, Polygon, because they've all started covering board games also.
Oh yeah. So I mean,
so it kind of is, you see if your competitor starts doing it, you start doing it.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to, right, at that point, and it's a matter of reach, right? Well, we've talked before about why companies do all these crossover products, and that's a prime example that some places might talk about Magic or give you highlights of a big tournament or whatever, but you give them a thing that's in their space. Now they can start deep diving on it and show all the art and talk about the lore and blah, blah. And I've been fans since I was 10 years old and, like all that. So you get way more reach out of this. And yeah, I can't say we expected anything different here. Like, people seem to be shocked on some levels, which is weird. But then we also have the other side where everybody was waiting, just like the hype train instantly came out. And they've actually done a good job capturing the things. Like, there's a fishing side quest that they have on a card, which I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And the end result is you get food and get to generate some mana and whatever. So it's like, all right.
That's very Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you get the fish for the food. I'm like, all right, I get it. They found a way to do summons, which was really cool. So it's almost like a saga card. But it's an actual creature that only lasts for the 3 or 4 rounds that the saga lasts, and then it goes away.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, so you summon a creature, it gets cool abilities for 3 turns, and then it goes away. And
There's
I'm like,
30-minute unskippable cutscene and all.
Bro, like, the craziest. I don't know if I told this story on here. Like, was it Final Fantasy VII that had the Knights of the Round? I think had
I
like
believe so.
the crazy spell that you literally had like every night come in and do its thing, then the next one come in. And dude, no lie, I had a friend. We were at a friend's house. He cast a spell. I went into the kitchen, was talking to his mom about something, whatever. Got something to drink, came back, still saw the last two knights do their thing before the
Yeah.
spell was off. I'm like, this is insane. You got to do this every time. I mean, admittedly, it's kind of like an in-game spell, but still, like that was too much. I don't know
And
how we're going to
nowadays, like
represent that.
it'll crash your computer, or your PlayStation sometimes if it takes if
I
the graphics are too much, which has happened on not just Final Fantasy, but a lot of these games now that have all these elaborate cutscenes, explosions, 30-minute summons, and things.
Yeah, it's a wild thing. I don't know how you can. I mean, I assume since it's such a key known spell, everybody talks about, like we might get some representation of it in the game, but I don't know how. I saw that the expansion symbol was a chocobo, so that's really cool,
There you go.
right? You got the flavor in there, so I'm all for it. And matter of fact, I think one of the things they're doing for retail stores, the LGSs, is like you show up every week and you get something on like a chocobo racing track or something, and then after you get so many, you
Nice.
get a prize. So they're going the extra mile, and you can tell that people who played the game, but even if they hadn't played the game, at least well researched the game at a minimum, are hitting all the right notes. And I think that's going to resonate with people as well, because it's not just slapping Final Fantasy on
And
some
you gotta
Magic
feel like
stuff.
the people that play Magic and have played Final Fantasy, that's probably a 1-to-1 ratio. It
And,
probably it's going to be hard to find the people that haven't played at least one Final Fantasy that also play Magic.
oh yeah, that Venn diagram. I mean, it's probably about a at least I would a 95% coverage rate. You know, what I
Yeah,
mean, like it's probably a lot. So
because you like dragons, you like magic and
yeah,
magic spells in fantasy. So yeah, these are two things. And again, these have been two of the dominant things in their space for 30 plus years.
and I think though that's also part of why I had anticipated it was going to be that hot, because while a lot of us nerds have read Lord of the Rings, a bunch of people haven't. You know, a bunch of people's Lord of the Rings is just like I saw one or two of the movies or whatever, and that's their interaction with it, and they're not as attached to it as they are Final Fantasy in a lot of ways. Because the minute people found out about it, they were excited. So I expect that's going to continue. But I'm going to go and hop right into the soapbox here, because it does bring up something I also didn't like. And the issue I have here is we already know a bunch of stuff about Final Fantasy and virtually nothing about Tarkir Dragonstorm, which comes out next. And on the one hand, it's bothersome because you're like, man, I'd like to just know about the next thing in the Magic lore and the next Magic set, whatever, first. But I also get it from a business perspective, so it makes me feel kind of gross in that like capitalistic kind of way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. You want to put it out there. You're going to get the coverage. You're going to get all these websites talking about it. I would venture to guess this weekend at MagicCon Chicago, there'll be a big presentation that talks about all the Tarkir stuff, and we'll have stuff to talk about on Monday. Or for our show, we'll talk about, next week. But there will probably also be Final Fantasy stuff because you're already talking about it online. So I wonder, it's a tough thing, right? Because this is one of the things we've talked about before with the Universes Beyond stuff, is that you get kind of caught in the situation, because I'd venture to guess Square Enix did not sign that agreement cheaply
No.
to use Final Fantasy. So you do have to do that extra promotion, and you have to like make sure you get your money's worth off of it. Because I don't even know what a Final Fantasy license costs to produce it for another
Oh
card game,
God,
whatever.
man,
It's got to be a lot.
astronomical.
Because here's the thing, and what people don't know about licenses is you pretty much have two choices or two popular ways it's dealt with. Either they just say, sure, you have the rights to use it for this amount of time for this big dollar amount, or it's usually some like soft payment, small, and you give up a percentage. So, and some for some products, it could be as much as 20%, which is not chump change.
There was a multiverses leak. It hasn't been confirmed by anybody, but they were claiming that they worked on the game. But they were, hey, can we get Goku? And I think they said to use Goku is over 20, just Goku is over 20 million. I figure Final Fantasy is probably
Oh, 20
easily,
million for Goku, just the character? Like,
yeah.
damn, you don't even get like Boo and Vegeta and like you. That's crazy. But if that's what it goes for,
So you figure Final Fantasy is probably somewhere, especially if they're getting not just Cloud, or that they're getting licensed to everything. I'm sure it's at least that much, if that number, as I said, that number hasn't been verified, but I didn't hear anybody come out and say, no, that's just crazy. So there may be something to that
and
claim.
that's the thing too, right? Like when the deals are that big, sometimes when you have a product like Magic, we're going to be selling boosters and boxes and all kinds of ancillary stuff. You probably just sign a percentage deal. Say, all right, cool. We'll give you 2 to 3, 5 mil up front, and then we'll just cut you in for whatever percentage. And then if they make 100 million, then they get their 20% or whatever of the 100 million or whatever, and you just share the wealth. But it's. I mean, I get it. Like I said, from a capitalistic standpoint, I understand why we got to jump on and start talking about Final Fantasy. Like, but it does kind of hit you in the like, yeah, but what about the next set first, man? This is next on the calendar. It's a couple months away. Like, why are we not talking about this? But like I said, we'll
Yeah,
see.
well, this is when kind of you hype yourself.
Yeah.
So all products, unfortunately, are not created equal.
Oh, definitely not. Whether people want to admit that or not, it's the reality, right? Like they signed a license to work, an expensive license with a legacy property among nerds that you got to get your money's worth.
There are people that will buy this that won't buy another Magic, hadn't bought a Magic card before, and won't ever buy one again unless there's more Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, there's people that are going to buy this just because they're Final Fantasy fans. They're going to make a complete set. Same thing we saw when the Transformer stuff came out. The same thing
Yep.
with the Godzilla stuff when that was part of Magic. Like it's just a thing, right? And that's why they do it. Now that said, we'll see where it ends up next week. Hopefully, we'll have some stuff to talk about with Tarkir. Who knows? But all right, dude, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, Captain America: Brave New World dropped this past week, smashing box office records, making all kinds of money, making some people angry, and these people pretty much haven't read comic books, I think, for the most part, because this is, a comic book storyline. Sam Wilson did become Captain America in the comic books. This is nothing the MCU created. Like, this is straight from the comic books. Then, of course, people are upset about some comments that the actor Anthony Mackie made about the character not necessarily representing America. And again, you can tell how many comics these people haven't read, because that literally is what Captain America is. Every Captain America story is basically him trying to live up to America's ideal and being pissed off that people around him aren't doing the same thing. Captain
Mm-hmm.
America is always mad, like with the Avengers, with the government, with the people of America for doing something ridiculous. That is who the character. I mean, what are the story? Best storylines? Man without a country. That's
Yep.
see, and also let's give some space and some grace to the fact that is one of the best things about modern comics is that characters are allowed to show some kind of progression. I remember when I first started reading comic books way back in the 70s, Dick Grayson was Robin, far as we knew. Dick Grayson was always going to be Robin. Nothing else would ever happen to him. And then finally, people start writing stories like, hey, Dick Grayson gets to grow up and become Nightwing. Wally West gets to grow up, stop being Kid Flash, and become the actual Flash. And so those stories were incredible because they literally killed Barry Allen off. And as far as comics go, he was dead for, I think, 32, 33 years of comics. That's an eternity.
That's forever. Yeah.
And when they did it with Wally and saw that it could be done, then we saw lots of people starting to do stories where, hey, the person that clearly has been training to become Batman or the Flash or Captain America or whatever could actually grow up and take that mantle on. It's to me one of the best things about comic books. So yeah, let people enjoy these things.
For me, there's two things that did really well. Getting past like a black Captain America, whatever, was that one, it actually tried to sew up some loose ends that have kind of been lingering in the MCU a little bit. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet because
Because
it just
Disney
came out.
already did.
I'm just saying it just
You're not
came
gonna
out
spoil
last
it.
week, so
Yeah,
I'm going to be kind of careful here. But there are a couple of things that I remember even thinking about, like, they haven't talked about this in a while, or like, have they not noticed this thing's just around or whatever? And then like in the first 10 minutes of the movie, that's a couple of things they touched on, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So like, it's
yeah,
not like we're just dropping this part off. So I thought
right,
that was really cool, and also the fact that they touched on old stuff, like from movies I thought they weren't even gonna reference anymore ever. And I
right.
was like, oh, that's cool. It's like, so these technically are canon and part of the MCU now. All right, I'm down. You know, so that made those pretty entertaining. But toward the end, which I think is becoming a thing with Anthony Mackie's Captain America, is he has these profound statements, or he has a
Yep.
speech or whatever. The one he gave the dude at the end, like, man, I felt that way too much when he told him about like living up to standards and whatever. And I was just like, oh man.
Like I
Like,
said, that has always been a thing that Captain America does. He's a person that will come up to you and tell you, "Hey, your slip is showing." And he doesn't
yep.
care if he doesn't care if it's the president. He doesn't care if it's Iron Man, because obviously famously they had the Civil War where
Hmm.
Cap and Iron Man end up fighting each other. Cap, sticks to his morals and his ideals, and if you don't, or if he feels like you haven't, at some point you and him are going to have to go. So
Oh
really,
yeah.
while people are upset, and a lot of it, you got to ask people like, okay, the white character did this too. Why are you upset that the black man's doing it? You just have to
Oh sure.
say it out loud for us.
Yeah, the only difference is just the perspective of the character for the same
Yeah,
message. That's literally it.
exactly.
Whereas with Mackie's Captain America, it's a lot about like, you're having to live up to ideals because you're the only one, right? As far as
Right.
the only black face that a lot of these people see as a hero. So like, you can't mess up,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, man, I've been in that. Damn. Like, I'm trying
And
not to
right
get like
now, kind of
choked
the
up when
only
talked about it.
kind of the only official Avenger, because everybody forgot who Spider-Man is. Iron Man's dead.
Yeah.
Thor's in deep space. So yeah, he really is the face of the Avengers at this point.
I mean, I guess technically there's, ornery Hawkeye still out there.
Yeah, but again, he was on a murder spree, and you understand why. The
Oh, sure,
character the
sure.
character reached for mustard, and his family disappeared. So you get why Hawkeye had that whole character arc that he had, but still, he's somebody that really necessarily kind of can't be the face. He can't be Captain
Yeah.
America, so to speak. Winter
But I will
Soldier couldn't be
say,
Captain America for some of the same reasons.
if you hadn't seen it, totally worth seeing. Like I said, wraps up some old loose ends and opens up some doors. Really sets the field a little bit for the next few MCU movies. Kind of where we're going is a little bit clearer. A lot of character progression for multiple characters in the
Yeah,
movie. So it's like, yeah, I get it. It made $100 million over the opening weekend,
right.
which they only expected it to be profitable to do like mid 80s. I think they were saying like 85. So it crushed the expectation. So like,
Yeah,
good for them, man.
which is good because they're supposed to be doing an Armor Wars either movie or TV show starring Don Cheadle, and it's kind of I'm sure they were waiting to see what Captain
Yeah.
America did, really,
Well, you also have
before they'd see what.
Ironheart coming too.
Yeah,
So all that's going to probably be cross promoted. So it's kind of important for this one to do well. But all right, let's hop into what we learned because there's a couple of interesting things. So you go first here, and then I'll fill some people in on some amusing stuff.
yeah, it really does sound like we're getting Grand Theft Auto 6 this year. They told the stockholders that they kind of expected the impact process. They're not going to lie to the stockholders. They expect the game to come out this year because they wouldn't lie to the people that signed their paychecks, so to speak. And
All
one of
right.
the things that's come out is they're talking with some of the top, as we call them, metaverse creators, if you will. They're saying metaverse. I'm saying metaverse. The stories are saying. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that word, but yeah, okay, it is what it is. They're really trying to turn GTA 6 into kind of a creator platform. If you look at, for example, Roblox, Roblox is very much community generated. A
Oh
lot of the
yeah.
most popular games are designed by actual children. Good news is this hopefully will involve less child labor because, in theory, GTA players should be older. But yeah, they've been talking to some of the top Roblox creators, top Fortnite creators, and top GTA creators to kind of create some experiences inside GTA 6. Kind of like, if you create a mod that makes it a bunch of money, hey, they're going to own it, but they're going to let you cook, which is really what, as I said, they're getting things that were done in Fortnite and Roblox, where somebody comes up with a really good game mode or a great map. Hey, they're gonna you did something great and you did it for free. So by all means, keep doing the thing you're doing. If you do it well enough, hey, you can actually come here, work for us, and officially be part of the GTA 6 metaverse, if you will.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this at all. I think from a creator perspective, it's also cool that they're at least, I'm assuming all the people they're reaching out to are going to get some type of advanced access and everything else. So they're already, for their gig, get to be ahead of the curve on content by months over everybody else.
And
You know,
one of the most popular things in Grand Theft Auto 5 became the whole role play community. That was, again, community created. Grand Theft Auto had no idea that was going to be a thing. They would have
mm-hmm.
never envisioned that. The community came up with that, made it a huge thing, and they started, they at first they banned some of the major creators from hosting their own servers. Then they realized, this is huge. Let's just buy them and bring them in the house, pretty much.
Yeah. And it's an interesting move. But I'm with you. I think the signs of, okay, now we're talking about projected dollars. Now we're starting to reach out to people that we're going to have to share private information with. That's a sign that at the very least, GTA 6 has to be finished and ready to go, or else you wouldn't be able to reach out to creators and be like, hey, here's some stuff that I want you to be able to make for us for Roblox or
Yeah,
Fortnite
if
or
you've
whatever.
got
Like,
assets, then
yeah, it would be weird to give them stuff but not have it be completed, because then it probably wouldn't line up at the final when you got to the finish line. So yeah, I
longer people had to sit on stuff, and you would have further leaks. If you said, let's
oh
say
yeah,
something that it's postponed for a year, everything would have leaked. But they've already had so many leaks they didn't want. So for them to be doing this and reaching out to people, signing contracts, we're barring some kind of catastrophe, we're getting GTA 6 this year.
yeah, at this rate now with them doing that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a late summer, early fall release, like something that you get to show off during the summer conventions and things like that or whatever, and then have it drop.
Probably fall, because that's where the dominoes fall.
Yeah.
Everybody else will figure out when Grand Theft Auto is coming out, and that's their plans. They are like they're an Avengers movie. You wait to see what they do, then you kind of figure out: can you launch the week before? Can you launch the week? How big is your game? What
Oh,
are
no
you doing?
doubt. Now, here's a funny thing, because we just had the Super Bowl happen a couple weeks ago, and of course, Kendrick Lamar has been all over the news. People have been memeing his "Say Drake," like that's been
Right?
everywhere. So
There have
people
been some
that
really good ones.
oh yeah, people that didn't know what this was about have started diving into this beef between him and Drake, right? And the funny thing is, some people have started to stumble on other rap beefs, because there's been some pretty famous ones even
Oh
recently,
yeah,
like MGK, Machine Gun Kelly. He messed up, went after Eminem. Eminem beat him so bad
you
he
know,
left doing rap and
you,
he just does rock
yeah,
music now.
you don't mess with him, that's just
Yeah, he's the different. There's some different levels of beef though, right? Because there's Eminem, who's just gonna like come at you hard, get it done, sweep it under the rug, go on about his business, right? Nobody messes with him. But what people have discovered, and I'm going to share with some people some stories, is that the original true petty beefer is 50 Cent. And people don't know this because 50 Cent kind of keeps his beef on the low. Like he does some really crazy stuff until he just like decides to hit you on social media. Like a recent one, I believe, was with Irv Gotti, who's they were beefing for, I don't know, since the beginning of his career.
yeah.
He was out to eat, made a tombstone and set it next to him with Irv Gotti just passing or whatever. And I'm like, bruh, right? He's got a famous one where he went after Ja Rule because they've been beefing for, I don't know, 15 years now or something. Apparently, Ja Rule got up under his skin. So 50 was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go buy all the tickets on the first two rows of your concert. So there ain't nobody in your shots in the front row. Like, think about how petty. Like, you're going to go buy tickets at somebody else's show to make sure there is nobody up against the stage. Like, that's cool. And not only that, according to rumor, I don't know if the story is true. But apparently he found a way to get them on like Groupon. So they were like, buy one, get one. So we even get all the money for the tickets.
Wow.
But the latest one,
Petty, but saving money. I can
yep,
appreciate
frugal
it.
while being petty. But here's the one that got people because people had to learn about how Rick Ross and him are connected. Well, Rick Ross is part of this group that was like, I think they're called like the Black Family Mafia or something like that, right? And his little group of him, but there's another dude called Big Meech who's part of the group. And unless you're like heavy into rap, you probably don't know who Big Meech is. But at some point, supposedly, Big Meech was trying to not find out if snitches get stitches. So he had to get his woman to go and, drop all the info. But his woman's like, what do I get out of it? So he sold her or gave her his life rights. So after it's all done, they could make a movie and all the crazy stuff about all the stuff that went on behind the scenes or whatever. All of it didn't really go through. Short version, he still went to jail, just did less time than he wanted to do, whatever. But during all that, apparently 50 Cent and his people found out about what was really going on. He was telling people about it. Well, Big Meech gets out and Rick Ross wants to back Big Meech and they're going at 50. And they're like, you know what? We're just going to make the story, tell our side, blah, blah, whatever. And 50 basically said, nah, I'm ahead of you. You're not, unless you're going to make me a lot of money. Because 50 Cent went and bought the life rights for the dude. So he can't even make a movie about his own stuff without making 50 rich. And I'm just like, man, I told my woman, I said, if I ever post something on social media and Kendrick or Eminem or 50 shows up and says something crazy to me, just remind me not to respond because I don't need this in my life. Like these are people that will just murder you socially all the way around. It is not worth it.
I would be, especially as a rapper, be kind of concerned about selling my life rights because they're only valuable after I'm dead.
Mostly.
Or more
Yeah.
so. So that's just like screaming, hey, murder me, please.
I mean, unless you have like an epic life, like a Snoop Dogg or whatever, we could make 15 movies about Snoop
Yeah.
Dogg's life and whatever,
Big
right?
Meech, not as much.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I just want to put that out there because there's been Kendrick and Drake stuff everywhere, and people have been like, "Did you know about this? Did you know?" I'm like, "Oh, y'all are just now finding out about all the actual rap beefs that existed." And dude, it's a deep rabbit hole. So if y'all want to have some fun, go do some Google searches on that stuff because man, there's tons out there. All right, let's talk about some other news here. We had an interesting thing happen a little over a week ago now, I guess, about 8 or 9 days, that we actually have achievements in MTG Arena now. And I wasn't like, I'm one of those people, I've never been a completist in a game. Like, when I played Arkham Asylum and it's like, you're only 94% finished. And I'm like, what did I not do? And it's like, you got to go find all the Riddler coins over. I'm like, nope, I'm done. Right? Like,
No, you gotta find them all, man.
oh, I did so much in Fable 2. And it's like, oh, but you didn't destroy all the gargoyles or whatever. I'm like, nope, I'm out. Like, I just never been a thing for me. I don't think I've completed, if there were extra side quests, I've never completed a game to 100%. But there are people who really like achievements. Like we talked about it before. There used to be websites where you can go and trade games, Xbox games or whatever. People would know, they would tell you how crappy a game is, but because it had 10,000 points worth of achievements, people wanted to trade for it. So they go do the achievements, right? Crazy.
And game designers and companies realize this. That is one of the type of gamers that they have a psychological profile on, is a gamer that likes, to unlock things and to achieve things. So that was for years one of the big things Xbox had over Sony. Then Sony came out with trophies and kind of started
Yeah.
getting people to do some of the same stuff.
And we've already seen it in my Discord. There have been some people even frustrated, like, I was so close to getting this one, but then my opponent conceded before I could kill him with poison or whatever,
Right.
right? So like that's already becoming a thing. So
The ones that require online stuff are the nightmare of achievement or trophy
yeah.
hunters because, servers go down all the time. I mean, like, for example, WWE 2K, second 2K25 drops, you'll probably see like in November or December, they'll turn 2K23 or 24s off. They're cold that way. And at that point, the online achievements they're gone forever.
Yeah, I will tell you, and this is not corroborated anywhere. This is just something that people brought up. That is it possible that they wanted to add achievements because they're considering finally moving to consoles as well? And I was like, maybe. I hadn't thought about that. I don't. I have seen nothing that says that's the case, but I could see where you would make that connection of just like,
It's kind of
hey,
like, why wouldn't you do it? What is the
yeah,
reason to not have it on consoles?
no clue, honestly.
You
The
want as
controls are
many people.
fairly simple, so you could put that on any
Yeah, they've
console with
already
that.
had Magic card games on consoles
Yeah, for
before,
sure.
so
So it kind of
I've
makes
never
sense.
understood why they hadn't done that.
I would say it's possible. This is one that, like, when people are like, "How likely do you think it is?" It's like, I don't know how likely, but it at least feels very plausible because the thing that
You
would be
want
easy to
people to
do,
have every opportunity to, you want people to have no excuse to not play your game, essentially. Every
sure.
whatever machine they own, you want them to have access to your game.
So it feels possible. I could see that being one of the next things of, hey, how do we get more people? Let's go to the platforms where some of them already are. Put it in their online stores. You'll have to do the regular updates because Arena gets updated like every other week with some small stuff. So, and effects or whatever you just make sure it works on the game engines. But yeah, it's maybe. I mean, so far
Especially if you're going
it's
to do stuff like, imagine if it was already on consoles and you were doing Final Fantasy.
oh
And
yeah, yeah.
let's say you bought a Final Fantasy game and you get 3 or 4 packs of Magic cards in Arena. Well, why would you not
See,
do something like that?
that's exactly the next reason I think that might hold a little more weight of just like, hey, if we're gonna get all these people in that are already video gamers, what if we start going over there and saying, like, hey, you already got an Xbox, you already got a PlayStation. Why don't you check this out now that you
Yeah.
already bought some cards and play online? So there's something to it. I'm not
Because
gonna
I
say
was doing the story about how, in my opinion, FC25 is not the sports game of the year. So, of course, I had to play enough of it to be able to talk
sure.
intelligently about it. And damn it, they got their hooks in. You'd be like, hey, look, you unlocked this player. He's really good. Well, okay, yeah. If I score
Hmm.
2 more goals, I unlock Pele. All right, let me score 2 more goals, and before you
And
know it,
see, I think that's exactly the real goal of achievements, if you will, is that
yep,
it's, "Oh, okay, I only gotta get killed 3 more creatures. I only gotta cast X more spells. Alright, well, let me just play 1 more game," right? So now
right.
you got somebody for another 10 or 20 minutes that you wouldn't have had them otherwise, right? I think that's really what they're aiming for, just more time on the platform. Because we all know if people spend more time on your platforms, you're able to get more ads in front of people, you're able to sell them more things in your web store, you're able, just the activity generates activity. Like it's a whole way that YouTube exists, right? They want to promote the
Right.
videos that get you to stay on the platform longer, and the creators that keep you there longer. So
Yeah,
that
man.
I
Once
think
I
it's
built me a decent team, oh wait, now Diego Maradona's in the game for the first time in 5 years. Well, I ain't gonna do all this to unlock Diego
oh
Maradona
yeah,
and then just
yeah.
completely stop playing the game. That's not gonna happen.
So it's very interesting. I think we'll see some expansion of what types of achievements you get. They'll probably even have stuff tied to different sets and mechanics. So far, I'm just kind of like, if I see the little thing pop up that I got an achievement, I'll go click the button to clear it or whatever, get whatever reward it is. But I'm not trying too hard for them. I'll just at some point I'll probably have about half to 2/3 of them, and the other 1/3 I'll just never complete.
And
But
here's the thing that
that's okay.
Xbox is doing, where you may unlock an achievement or something. They have a rewards program where, hey, if you do in-game tasks, you actually get currency you can trade in for Microsoft rewards. So there's a thing that
Yeah, that's cool too.
maybe they could do.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how people take to it. Yeah. So remember we talked about Xbox Game Pass just not announcing hardly
Yep.
anything for February. Turns out they have a crap ton of stuff that's going to be launching this weekend and next weekend still
Right.
at the end of the month. But I think you put two and two together as to why we're getting them so late.
Yeah, Avowed has apparently dropped. The people are. It sounds like it's a game of the year contender. So I think that's probably where they were really. They knew they had a mic drop, so they weren't really too worried about everything else that was going on. Like, yeah, by the way, this other stuff is coming, but yeah, play Avowed. Everybody should. Everybody. And I think before the year, kind of what games you think are going to be huge. This wasn't really one of the ones I think that was on my list, but now that people have played it, it's all I'm hearing about. So it sounds like it's one of our first big games of the year, and they're saying, hey, this could be the thing that supposedly saves Xbox if Xbox was ever really in danger. because Microsoft is the biggest gaming company in the world at this point. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much quote unquote danger they were ever actually in, because many people have mentioned the console wars essentially over. You
Yeah.
could say
Yeah.
either you could argue everybody won, you could argue nobody won. Doesn't matter. We're playing Sonic games on our Nintendo Switches. We're about to probably playing Halo on our PlayStations. The way we grew up, those days are over. It's not. It's not the ecosystem that it was.
Yeah, now it's just you're chasing certain games or whatever more than you care about systems. And it's just like wherever your property is, that's what you're playing. Like nobody seems to care anymore. But there was a point where, for real, if you were on PlayStation, you would talk trash about people on the Xbox and vice versa. And that was the
There
thing.
are people that the Sony ponies and the Xbox. They're still out there.
Yeah, but you don't see the hype like you used to. I think people have just realized like it's dumb and half the people own both of them anyway. So who cares? Like what are we doing? But yeah, cool that there's still a lot of stuff coming. This is not, I think there was some fear of like, is something happening with Game Pass or whatever? None of that. I think you're right. I think it was just they knew they had a big title, so we'll just announce that one. People will download it, play it for a few weeks, and then so you get your money's worth. Here's a few things at the end of the month that are kind of cool too.
They know they're cooking right now, and also they probably also knew, because apparently Sony's we just said console war's over, but yeah, I was not hearing good reviews about the games that Sony revealed at PlayStation State of Play. So Xbox clearly they're having a good month at least.
Hey, take your wins where you can get them, dude. Yeah, so we talked about some different games and some mobile stuff and things going on here and there, but Niantic probably, well, the mobile game you probably heard the most about in a while, Pokemon Go. They own that. They have a bunch of other failed projects,
Yeah,
since then. A lot of
there was a
other
Harry
Go
Potter show
products.
that they tried that didn't really take off.
Yeah,
There was
I thought
I
the
think
Harry Potter one had a chance to go off, but it apparently was dead on arrival. There was also the NBA one, which I
Yeah,
didn't
that one was
understand at
always
all.
kind of weird because they want you to go, I guess, to parks and
Yeah,
blacktops where people are playing basketball, and I don't know if there's enough crossover between the two people that
I
would.
enjoy both things, Pokemon Go and basketball, and it was weird to me. So
Yeah,
I can't imagine, like literally, I'm like, if I'm who's supposed to be your target demo and I'm confused, like, how is this going to work for everybody else?
and the answer was it would not, and it did not.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing, right? They made, I believe the number I saw was over $3.5 billion on Pokemon Go alone. So it's still doing quite well. But I guess because of other failed projects or whatever, or the Saudis just wanting to get their hands into some more money, because some of the Saudi companies like doing that. They're looking to actually buy Niantic, and these are the same people, my understanding, that own Stumble Guys, which yes, is a derivative of Fall Guys. It's just on mobile. Like it is what it is. It even has the same art style. They're not necessarily like beans or whatever they are in Fall Guys, but you could tell. You know what I mean? Like if you see it, it's not a secret what they were copying. But anyway, Stumble Guys has done like 80-ish million dollars. Not a ton of money, but enough that you could call it successful and profitable,
Definitely.
whatever. But I don't know if that's good or bad if you're a fan of Pokemon Go, right? Like, are they trying to change it? Are they just going to like get their piece of the money by owning it? Does Niantic get to make more things because we'll have more money in their pockets? Like, there's a lot of unknowns here, but I don't
And
know
of
if this
course, the
means
Saudi government is
that's
often
also true.
terrible, but that's part of why they're throwing so much money around. They kind of want you to feel good about the government, even when you probably shouldn't.
I think the toughest thing for me is when you see stuff like this, it's hard to gauge where you are in the life cycle of the company or the product, right? Like because a lot of companies just sell because the price is right. Like somebody rolls up and and I don't know what the final price is going to be, but let's say the Saudis offer them $5 billion or whatever. Like it's hard to say no to $5 billion if you're a small to mid-sized company. Like
Yeah.
you're probably going to take it. It doesn't mean you're going to cease being a company. It doesn't mean you're going to cease making your products. But it could also mean like, hey, we're kind of uncertain about where things are because we're starting to see the fall off and our other products didn't work. maybe we need to take our money while we can and let
And
somebody else
there's
deal
just,
with the
as we
headache.
know, a lot of layoffs, a lot of chaos in the video game industry right now. So somebody backs up to your house with a truck full of money. I get it.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So I'm not going to speculate on this because I don't feel like I have enough information to say this is what you should probably feel about Pokemon Go or whatever. Because the game still seems to be going. I mean, I've even gone out to parks when they've had their little community days or whatever, and I'll see people at the different things still doing stuff. So I guess they're still making money on it. I don't know how much, but we'll see. But then that brings us to the dinner table. And of course, we're talking about Final Fantasy this week with the Universes Beyond product. So, Brian, I wanted to ask you, is there a 5 to 6 card package of things, property, that you would like to see made into a secret layer?
I could see the Universal monsters, and then whenever they lose the licenses they paid a bunch for, you just turn it into Innistrad cards and redo them that way.
Oh, so you mean like a Dracula, Frankenstein?
Dracula,
Mm,
Frankenstein, the Mummy, Wolfman. I think that's all the main
I guess
ones.
put Mothman on one.
I don't remember whether he's. I
He's
don't
more
think
of a
he's
cryptid
there.
than
Yeah,
anything. But you could do a 4 card secret layer. There's been a few of those. For me, I was thinking like, what things could I think of that we could put into Magic that would still appeal to Magic players? That's in a group of 5 or 6, and I almost had something, and then I had a better thought. What if we got a Voltron one, and then each lion gets to have its own card? And it's like that'd be kind of sweet. Or I guess you could do it with Power Rangers,
yeah.
kind of the same thing, right?
Although
5 different
that
characters.
almost fits Yu-Gi-Oh more than Magic because of Exodia.
Well, yeah, you could get the Exodia bonus if they're all in
Yeah,
play. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I was like, man, I wouldn't be upset seeing either of those on cards for like a throwback crowd. I think.
that might be what they do with the Infinity Stones, like a six
Oh, I
card
thought
Secret
about that.
Lair with the
Yeah,
gauntlet and the stones.
yeah, that'll probably happen. But yeah, I don't know. I thought about that, and I really had thought of something like Power Rangers probably still hits better with current audience because they've extended Power Rangers forever. A lot of people have more
Yeah, and they
interaction with that
already own it,
property.
so they don't have to pay a ridiculous licensing fee.
Yeah. Whereas like Voltron, while cool, there hadn't really been a good Voltron product in a minute. So,
There's a Netflix show. I don't know how many people saw it, but there is a
well, yeah,
Netflix
that's
show.
what I'm saying. Like it had not one that's really hit solid with the nerd crowd. So I don't know, but that's where my head was. But anyway, I'm sure people have other fun ideas when you're
And then
thinking
we're honest,
smaller.
did the original Voltron? Let's be honest. When
Yeah,
you were a kid,
dude,
yeah, yeah,
Voltron
you
hit.
knew, and 3 or 4 other kids in your class knew, but did everybody? You can't say
Oh, dude,
everybody
I
knew
know a
about
lot of people
Voltron.
that had the Voltron toys. Like they did well with Voltron.
And that's one of the ones where there would be kids that had the Voltron toy and didn't even know who he was. Their parents just bought them a toy because they asked for it. It was what because the toys always looked cool, which is
Well, Voltron
literally what.
got reach because of also Transformers, right? Because they were basically a Constructicon. Like this one's a leg, this one's an arm. It's basically
Yeah,
what they were. At the end of the day,
or the Constructicons are basically Voltron since Voltron came out first.
fair, also fair. But all right, dude, I think that's enough for us for 1 week. So I tell everybody where they can find you on the social media
All
machines.
right, App Trigger is on Facebook. Stop by, find out what we're up to with all these exciting new video games coming out.
And you can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And if you're in Chicago at MagicCon, by the time you listen to this, you should still be able to find me. I'll be there. I'll be doing a lot with the Commander stuff and answering questions and taking notes. So come say hi. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And right now, more than ever, be awesome to each other.